Rumors abound that the Utah Mammoth may be looking to trade their first overall pick. What impact will that have on the team and on the first round of the draft? Robyn Leano of Locked On Mammoth is here to talk about that and more next on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the co-host of Locked On Mammoth, Robyn Leano. I got to get used to Mammoth and still working on that a little bit. But Robyn, an exciting time for this team. First of all, first draft with the new nickname. And second of all, a lot of questions out there, a lot of rumors about what the Mammoth may do with their first overall pick. What are you hearing and what do you expect to happen?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think a lot of it started off when, a fellow co-host of mine, Tom Callahan, asked in an interview in the press conference with Bill Armstrong when Utah moved up from 14 to fourth overall, is the fourth overall pick in play? Are you willing to trade it? Try to see what he's doing. Bill Armstrong was open about it. He said, "Yeah, we're open to trading it. It's definitely in play." It's like my scouts don't like to hear that because they're always like, "Hey, we're working day in day out and seeing if we can find the best player for you, and you're just gonna trade that pick away." But I think a little bit has been misinformation has been kind of like miscued or whatever on saying that they will trade it. I don't think that we don't know that yet. I mean, and again, Bill Armstrong likes to keep his cards close, but from what I do know is it still isn't in play. He is listening to offers and he's and he's seeing, all right, what can we get? What are some things that are coming our way? And again, if it's something that's really worth it to him, yeah, he will easily take that deal.
What do you think he would be looking for in a trade if one was to happen?
Yeah, I think this has been talked about multiple times, and we've kind of decided that I think the minimum that he would even be asking for, and this is the bare minimum, is at least a top six forward, someone who can easily come in and be an impact player for the Utah Mammoth right out the gate going into next season. And no dancing around like, oh, this player has the potential of being a top six forward, but their injuries were like, no, someone who is a proven top six forward every single day. And it's a big ask. It is a huge ask, not to mention there might be some other stipulations, maybe to kind of even out some other deals. Maybe Utah might part with some, maybe a fan favorite, or just to kind of, see what even out. Because we never see a 1-for-1. It's not like we're going to see Bill Armstrong get rid of fourth overall for a number one seed. It's just not going to happen that way. But there's going to be some movement between.
If Utah keeps the fourth pick, who are the players that you think they're most likely to be looking at?
Yeah, so there are a couple of name options that have come across based off of mock drafts and just based off general conversations I've had with other draft experts. And it seems to be that there are this very small group of players that Utah is mainly looking at, where Porter Martone is one of them, again, someone who fits Bill Armstrong's MO, as well as Desnoyers. Desnoyers has been also very high on that list with Bill Armstrong. Thinking in my head as well, some other ones. Anton Frondell is on some people's list. I don't think he'll likely get picked by Utah, but he's on some people's list there. As well as James Higgins, who I think is the one that's most talked about in this when it comes to the Utah Mammoth at fourth overall.
And what do you think the biggest need? You mentioned top six forward, but most first round picks don't play right away. So what is the biggest organizational need for the Mammoth at this point?
At this point, I think that it really will come down to whatever best player available is, they can see who can have not to say like the quickest turnaround, but is closest to the most NHL ready, because they want somebody who can make an impact as soon as possible. Because this Mammoth team wants to be competitive. They want to, next year they want to go to the playoffs. They want to start making a fight for the Stanley Cup within the next couple of years.
And what is the biggest missing ingredient for this coming season to get them to that last step? Because this team made a lot of progress last year, but what does it take to make that next step and be a playoff team?
Yeah, I think to me the biggest one is having a veteran like 1 or 2C. And I've said this multiple times, like on other Locked On shows, on the Locked On Mammoth podcast. It's nothing against Logan Cooley. I love Logan Cooley, and I think he will be an amazing number 1C for the Utah Mammoth in a couple of years. And honestly, I think he still could be a very amazing number 1C right now, but he's still young, makes a lot of mistakes. The rest of the team, also very young, they've made so many mistakes. There's a reason why they took a pretty hard fall and had some really bad inconsistencies. They need a number 1, a veteran 1 or 2C to kind of come in, to kind of bring in a little bit of mold, to kind of bring that pace back together, to get the understanding of where this team should be, and that is fighting for a spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs next season.
How much cap space does this team have as of right now, and are there any free agents or trade candidates out there that you think could fit that bill?
Yeah, so this has also been talked about a number of times. So right now, Utah is looking at $20 million in free cap space right now. So that's a lot. They still have to re-sign a couple of players, and that might take up maybe a couple of million, because these guys are restricted free agents, maybe ones that might not command a whole lot of money going into this next season, which allows Bill Armstrong to really go for a big splash should he want to. It's really hard to kind of gauge exactly the player he's looking for, but what has been talked about multiple times, and not a lot of people like this as an idea, but it's been talked about as the idea of first and foremost of Utah going for a offer sheet of a guy like JJ Peterka, which I think everyone has said would fit into Utah's kind of mold pretty well, honestly. Yeah, it would probably really take off a lot of, Buffalo fans, because, offer sheets, people hate them for some reason, even despite the fact that it's in the CBA. That's one. But two, there are rumors swirling around that Utah is within the mix of bringing in a player like a Brad Marchand, bringing in someone like him, maybe even him specifically. And I think that's the most important aspect. Tom and I have talked about this in the Locked On Mammoth podcast, and saying that they might be looking for a pest kind of player. Some people have asked, hey, what about Liam O'Brien? Isn't he a pest? No, he's an agitator. He's one that just really, he gets in your face, but he doesn't really have the top end skill to kind of make up for it. Pest players are the ones that they're annoying. You just hate them, but you love when they're on their team, all that kinds of aspects.
Yeah.
But Utah has been pretty up on that list when it comes to a player like Brad Marchand.
The offer sheet situation would cost a lot of draft picks if you sign Peterka. Do they have the ammunition to do that? They
really do. They have Utah has an incredible amount of draft capital that they could afford it all the way up to like the most expensive the next 6 or whatever it is, first round draft picks if they wanted to. They have it all, right? I think the biggest thing is, and I've talked about this, is one is I don't think you'll go that high. But two is Bill Armstrong really has to ask himself that is it worth it? Is it worth going for a player like that? It's like just because we can doesn't mean we should, kind of thing, is what I said on the Locked On Mammoth podcast. Ryan Smith, the owner of the Utah Mammoth, has said pretty much, indirectly, Bill Armstrong is the one that said that Ryan Smith told him that, hey, the pocketbook's open, you can spend money. We have yet to see that. Maybe this might be the first offseason we do see that.
Going to be an interesting couple of weeks. Robyn, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you and your co-host on social media?
Yeah, you can find the podcast just about everywhere on social media. We are at Locked On Mammoth. That's at Locked On Mammoth. I'm personally at Robyn_Leano on Twitter or X, whatever you do want to call it. My co-host Tom Callahan, he's also on X. He's on at Callahan on air, but he's mostly over on Blue Sky. You can find him over at Tom Talks.
All right, Robyn, thank you so much.
Of course.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.